Hey y'all, it's Live La Nina, and I am back with another review. This time I'm going back to my roots, a romance anime, My Happy Marriage. My Happy Marriage is essentially a Cinderella story, but way more cruel and heartless. So it centers around Mio, who is a young girl who her mother has died and her father has remarried. But essentially, her whole family hates her. Her own father hates her, the stepmother, and the stepsister. So as a result, Mio is, of course, during this time period, they were doing arranged marriages. So Mio is arranged to be married with Kyoka, Kudo, who has a notorious reputation for being cold and ruthless, and they're honestly doing that to punish Mio. So she ends up with him, and Kyoka herself is actually in the grotesquerie force. So essentially, they fight demons and spirits and those kinds of things. Another small part of the show, well, not small part, but another small part of the plot that I'm describing is that Mio does not have any supernatural abilities, and her stepsister does, which kind of further draws the family apart, right? So she learns that she does not have any spiritual abilities from a very young age, and that also ends up being a huge thing in the story. But I'm not going to spoil too much on that. But that's essentially what the story is about. To jump straight into the ratings, are they likable individually? They is going to refer to Mio and Kyoka. So 9. I give them 9s out of the gate because I like both of them individually. The only reason they don't get a 10 is because Mio, unfortunately, has very low self-esteem. So she's super apologetic and she's apologizing all the time. And Kyoka is, he is kind of stern, but they grow very fast from the people that we're introduced to in episode 1 and 2. So definitely deserve that 9. So this question, I actually changed. It used to be, is more than one love interest explored, but it was kind of hard to answer that on a 0 to 10 kind of scale. So now I have, how well is multiple potential love interests explored? For this, they get a 6. There is a heavily implied romance between Mio and another young man named Koji. However, they marry Koji off to Mio's stepsister Kaya. So that doesn't live very long. So they do kind of explore something else. Nothing really on Kyoka's side, but yeah, 6. Are they tested, and how do they grow as individuals and as a couple? So this one, I give them a 9 because they're tested a lot. They're tested a lot as a couple, and they're tested individually because, like I said, Mio's going through a whole thing with her family. Her family hates her. Her dad even says at one point he really doesn't care what happens to her after she gets married off. He doesn't care about her well-being. So she goes through a lot by herself. Kyoka, he definitely does not really trust people. He's very, kind of standoffish. He goes through a lot in learning how to, just be present and show up for people. And then together, once people thought that they were going to get together and it was going to be awful and they went to punish Mio, but when they saw it wasn't exactly going that way, got to throw a twist in there. So they definitely get a 9 for that. Do they inspire me to root for them? 10. I love giving out 10s. This one is very well deserved because honestly, I will say that Mio is probably the reason I root for them. Kyoka doesn't really do a lot for me in that regard, but it's because I want Mio to have a happy ending so bad. Like, she really deserves it. That girl goes through a lot with her family, and it's just like, I just want to see her be happy. So it's super easy to root for them. Is the romantic tension maintained throughout? This one, I gave it an 8 because there is definitely romantic tension, but it wasn't really always consistent. And that's in part because of some of the subplots. The supernatural and some of the fantasy elements, they do kind of get in the way of it just being like a consistent romantic, tension throughout. But they still, chemistry wise, them being on screen together is definitely sparks flaring for me. So for the final rankings, we have a 9, 6, 9, 10, and 8, which gives us a total of 42, and 42 out of 50 gives us an 8.4, which is really, really good. To get into some of the things that I didn't like about My Happy Marriage. So it's a very short anime right now. It's one season, but season 2 comes out next year, which I'm super happy because y'all know how I feel about the one season animes. But one thing that I really didn't like is, I will say I lean more towards romance comedies, right? So this one is a bit heavy for me, as a romance. Like, it's, the way she's treated and the things that she goes through, it's kind of heavy for a romance. But I mean, that works because it adds, a different dynamic to it. It makes it that more impactful to see her, end up being happy after what she's went through. If this was any other kind of anime, I would have been like, okay. But the fact that it's a romance, I just wanted it to be a little bit more lighthearted. So that's one thing I didn't like. Um, the next thing I didn't like is, I will say that I feel like I like the fantasy elements. I like the supernatural element, but to me, sometimes it just kind of took away from the story. Like, I could have seen if it was made to be a romance story without maybe the supernatural part. Like, I think that might have been a little bit more cohesive. But again, it does add layers and it makes it more impactful to see her win, Mio win. But yeah, those are probably the two things that I really just didn't care for. As far as what I did like for My Happy Marriage, honestly, I just loved Mio. I love seeing her grow. She has super low self-esteem, and it's not even her fault. She's been so mistreated, but you get to see her grow into like a really nice young lady. And Kyoka as well, because he starts out really cold, really reserved, but he shows ways that he cares about Mio. Even there was a servant that helped Mio when she was young, who actually got fired by the family, that he goes out and finds and brings her to the house to see Mio again because he knew it would make her happy. Like, he goes out of his way to show how much he cares for Mio, and it's just a beautiful blossoming marriage. Another thing is coming back to Koji. So remember I said that there was a heavily implied romance between those two. Well, Mio and Koji actually see each other after they've both been married off. And Koji's talking to her and he's like, do you remember that one day, what I said? And she was like, I have no clue what you're talking about. And I like that because she doesn't give Koji hope. She, maybe at one time, if things had went how her family wanted them to, for her to get married and be miserable and run off, then maybe her and Koji could have been together. But I liked that, even though how she felt about him in the past, when the opportunity presented itself, she just didn't give him hope because she is falling in love with Kyoka, and that's where she really wants to be. So I liked how that was shown in the show. I feel like that could have went a lot of different directions, but I'm glad they chose the path that they decided to go down. So another thing that I liked is the storytelling. So there would be scenes where we would see something happen between Mio and Kyoka, or just happen in general. And then there would be like a side scene with a side conversation that kind of explained, what happened or whatnot. And it's not really a major thing. It's not super like, oh my gosh, I've never seen an anime do that before. But I just like the way they told the story, because a lot of things do happen, off camera, behind scenes, especially when it comes to Mio. But I liked seeing it being done in a positive way. So that's just something a little quirky that I like. Overall, My Happy Marriage was a great show. A really great show. I'm just going to be honest. I really liked it. And I'm super happy that I caught it to where I don't have to wait forever for season 2. But this is definitely a good romance. But I say if you're into more serious kind of actiony animes, this would be a good one if you're trying to bridge from that to romance. Because like I said, it's not really a rom-com. There's some funny moments, but it's not really a romance comedy. It does have like a lot of seriousness to it. So highly recommend. As always, remember to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you guys next time.